And together let us prepare for the word preached. God, may the meditations of each of our hearts and the words of my mouth be found acceptable in your sight. For you are our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. John's heart must be racing. From the moment the messenger returns and begins quoting what Jesus said, John must be overwhelmed with joy, absolutely to the moon. The messenger begins, Jesus said, "Go tell John what you see and hear. The blind receive their sight." Yes, John must be saying. Yes, he recognizes these quotes from the prophet Isaiah. John knows these words rote. He knows what's coming. The lame walk, the lepers are cleansed. Yes, John must be saying, yes, yes, keep going. The deaf hear, the dead are raised. Yes, 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 John must be chanting. And the poor have good news brought to them. Yes, yes, keep going. John's head must be spinning now in absolute delirium as he knows what's coming next. He knows what Jesus is going to say. He knows what he's hoped for and wished for and prayed for these many long days languishing away in jail. And he knows that it's going to come true. And then silence. Crickets. Nothing. Nothing more is said. The messengers are done. Is there more? Did he say anything else John must be asking, about ready to pop? And no. There's nothing more. We can imagine John's utter heartbreak, the wave of despair taking over him. But what about me? John must be asking. What about me? You see, John knows the prophet Isaiah. He knows the words from which Jesus has borrowed his message. And so John knows what's missing. Jesus left out the part that said, "And the prisoners go free." May not seem like such a big deal to you and me. In fact, I didn't even catch it the first time around. But when you're John, when you're the guy sitting in prison, and you're waiting to hear back from this guy who's doing all these miracles, this guy who's doling out good news like candy at a parade, well, then it's a big, big deal. Why can Jesus save everybody but me? How come everybody else is getting healed? Why is everybody else's life changing but mine? How come everybody else gets good news except for me? John must be utterly devastated. Well, either that or he's skipped devastation entirely and gone straight to crazy angry. I don't know. Could be either way. I mean, what do you mean? Everybody gets included but me. How come everybody else is getting healed and I'm not? Don't tell me everybody's life is going to change but mine. Don't come to give everybody else good news but me. No, 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 no. No. We understand John's internal monologue because it has been our internal monologue. It's ours all too often. When we are out of work and everybody else is finding a job. When we work so hard for the grade and still rank at the bottom of the pack. When we receive calls from creditors and others are bragging about shopping sprees. When we can't get pregnant and everybody else is announcing due dates. When we realize they've chosen him or her instead of us, and they're not coming back. When we receive the diagnosis and others are announcing remission. When we realize we're stuck in a marriage that leaves us longing while everybody else is celebrating being in love. When we go to bury our dead and others are celebrating new life. Yes, we know what John is experiencing in this moment as he sent word to Jesus and receives a word back. A word that very specifically leaves him and his situation out. We know it because we have experienced the same thing. Well, Jesus is not Santa Claus. That's the first thing that seems most applicable during this season, when we tend to get the two confused. We don't get to send our list and expect that everything will arrive just as we prescribed, wrapped up in a pretty little package. God doesn't work that way. And furthermore, the world doesn't work that way. Work is hard to find. Grades are sometimes elusive. Money is tight. Infertility is real. People fall out of love. Our bodies break, and often they cannot be fixed. Relationships are sometimes less than fulfilling, and yes, people die. People die. It's the way the world works. Yes, John, people go to jail, sometimes unjustly, and sometimes they never get out. This is the way that the world works. And if you skip ahead a few chapters in Matthew, you find that John did not get out of jail. He will die a very unpleasant death there in prison. And we too have been John, yes? We have been trapped in prisons of our own making and trapped by others' decisions that are out of our control. We too have been John, wishing, hoping, and praying that God would come to us and speak the prophetic word that will free us. And sometimes that is not the word that comes from God. Jesus' words today, they recalibrate hope for us. Don't walk away here thinking that there is no good news for John in Jesus' message, because there is. And there is good news for us as well. But we have to be willing to recalibrate our hope. John will not be released from prison, and yet, he will still have new sight and insights. John will not be released from prison, and yet he can still walk in new ways. John will not be released from prison, and yet he can still be made clean. He can still hear anew and in new ways. And yes, the dead places within him can spring forth with new life. Yes, this is good news indeed. For John, and for you and for me. Your wishes may not come true, but the good news comes anyway. Recalibrate hope. Amen.